"500 years after the Reformation, the Church is moving towards unity again. I'll discuss that today with Petra Bosse-Huber, Bishop for Ecumenical Relations in the German Lutheran Church. Welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome, viewers. I'm Thomas Spahn. Ms. Bosse-Huber, for the first time, the head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, celebrated Mass with Lutherans on Reformation Day. What did you think about that?
This is a wonderful symbol of a new ecumenical atmosphere, and perhaps it's a historical watershed. After 500 years of violence and conflict, a relationship of substantial trust has developed between denominations. We're seeing this on an international level, too, not just in Germany, where the churches get along and have experience in promoting unity. The Pope and the Lutheran World Federation are worshiping together. For me, it's a sign of hope that after a lengthy ice age, we're now seeing an ecumenical awakening.
Martin Luther rebelled against greed, the Church's incalculable wealth, and hypocritical authorities. Pope Francis has made exactly the same criticism of his own clergy in Rome and other Catholic officials. Do you think Luther and Francis would get along?
They'd probably hit it off well. And I think Luther would be quite surprised that the same Catholic Church that excommunicated him is now honoring him in this way. I think the themes that motivate Pope Francis are the same ones that motivated Martin Luther. And those are liberation, social justice, and a religious message that people understand. A message that touches their hearts and changes society. I think Luther and Francis would see eye to eye.
Catholics and Protestants are moving closer together. For example, you and a group of Catholic bishops recently visited the Holy Land, another first. So what was that like?
Before we went, I had mixed feelings. I wondered whether our expectations were too high, and whether we could properly follow in the footsteps of Jesus in the Holy Land. But it was quite moving for me to spend a week traveling around with the Catholic bishops and senior officials of the Lutheran Church in Germany. We really were pilgrims, and that's something we don't usually do together. We'll sit together at conferences or as guests on TV talk shows. But during this trip, we prayed and held religious services together. It was something very new, and it not only changed our relationship, it gave our churches a new perspective. We developed so much trust and openness that I now have new confidence for the future. The 500th anniversary of the Reformation is an occasion to finally discover how much the major churches have in common.
A positive sign.
I certainly hope so.
This year's Reformation Day marks the Church's 500th anniversary celebration of Luther. But many young Germans have no idea what Reformation Day is all about. For them, October the 31st is Halloween. Does that bother you?
Bother is the wrong word. I think it's sad. But the way the Church conducts itself contributes to this situation. We have to be self-critical. Our society knows so little about its traditions, not just the ecclesiastical ones, but also our political and societal traditions. We know so little about the principles of personal responsibility and autonomy and the freedom that our society values so highly. We as leaders of the Church should admit that we've done a poor job of conveying the importance of the Reformation. So it's no wonder that a lot of people don't know anything about it. So these anniversary celebrations are a good opportunity to get back to the basics and communicate with people who no longer have a relationship with the Church. What's more, I see a lot of new interest in understanding our own culture, our own history, and our own roots. I also see new opportunities for contact, even among people who were not raised as Lutherans.
Here in the homeland of the Reformation, attendance at Lutheran services is dwindling, but it's increasing in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. What makes the Lutheran Church so attractive there?
I think that many people believe that the larger churches are established and have nothing new to say. But in societies that are going through political and social changes, many people are encountering religion for the first time, and they want to find out more about it. There are now more Protestants in Africa than in North America and Europe combined, but that fact is not well known. Congregations are growing in Asia, especially in Korea and China, and they're learning more about what it means to live as a Lutheran Christian. I hope we can learn something from these churches and breathe new life into the church here in Germany.
What specifically could we learn from them?
We have to stop taking it for granted that we, as established churches in Germany, with our reliance on Luther or Calvin or others, will survive intact through the centuries. People demand to know why one religion or another should interest them. We should speak much more simply and effectively about how people can find the answers they seek in the churches. We should explain why it makes sense to read the Bible. It's a beautiful book that answers questions about the meaning of life. Hardly anyone asks those questions anymore, and few can provide answers.
Many people right now are alarmed about globalization, wars, and terrorism. People seem to be longing for a sense of community. Can't the churches step in here and help them find it?
I think we do benefit from this situation in the sense that people are asking important questions. If we can no longer take peace for granted, even in Germany, people will want to find out how to build a peaceful society. That puts the Christian message, the message of Jesus, back into view. It's not so much that people are demanding a church, they're demanding existential and essential truths. What can I do about the violence I've experienced? How can I find some kind of healing? Where can I find forgiveness? How can I put my life back together? If I'm not successful, do I still have value as a human being? People are asking these questions today as they have for centuries. I think we owe these people some answers. I think the message is still fresh and new, but sometimes we need better packaging.
But there are a number of major political issues that people are concerned about. They have no solutions to these problems, like the dominance of financial capital around the world, widespread poverty, and reducing all aspects of life to an economic bottom line. Shouldn't the Lutheran Church take a page from Luther and speak out more forcefully, nail its theses to the door, so to speak, maybe at a Wall Street firm?
I think that would be an excellent idea. I would join a group that would do that. Problems that involve justice and peace must be resolved collectively. They cannot be resolved by individuals. We all have to work together. In today's world, the countries of the Northern Hemisphere are profiting from the destruction of countries in the Southern Hemisphere. This cannot continue. The situation has led to the refugee crisis, for example. And this is not a crisis caused by refugees. It's a crisis for our way of life. I believe that the Protestant churches and the Catholic Church as well must take a clear stand on these issues.
You said we. What motivates you on a personal level?
I travel a lot and I see human suffering all over the world. I know that I lead an unbelievably privileged life, and sometimes the contrast between how I live and how they live is almost too much to bear. I will do everything in my power as bishop, working in cooperation with the Church, the World Council of Churches, to make sure we keep investigating these situations and keep holding the politicians accountable. And when we find a situation that's unacceptable, we'll condemn it. We have to commit ourselves. We have to make changes in our personal lives. The Church needs to carry out internal reforms. We need to limit climate change and promote world peace. And we must maximize our ecumenical resources to promote justice.
Let's return to Luther. The Lutheran Church said it doesn't want to glorify him during this anniversary year, or present him simply as the founding father of the Church. The Church also wants to point out his personal weaknesses. Let's expand on that theme. I'm going to give you 3 incomplete sentences, and I'd like you to finish them. Number 1. Luther said that women are hard to control. To that, I would say,
he's right, and that's a good thing. Luther didn't spend a lot of time thinking about gender issues. You could say that in many ways he was a macho man. But at the same time, he did much to promote equality between men and women. He was a man of considerable contrasts.
if I weren't a bishop, I'd like to be
a deep-sea diver.
Why?
I've always been fascinated with marine biology. I had to make a choice, biology or theology. Obviously, I chose the latter.
My hope for this Luther anniversary year would be
I would like to see it become a major ecumenical event. I would also like to see our entire society realize how much we can do if we work together.
Petra Bosse-Huber, thank you.
Thank you.